Have you ever wondered why 99% of people stay broke, even when they work hard? It's not because they're lazy, it's not because they're unlucky, and it's definitely not because wealth is reserved for only a chosen few. The real reasons are psychological, behavioral, and deeply embedded into everyday habits, so subtle that most people don't even notice them. One of the biggest reasons people stay broke is the lifestyle trap. When income goes up, spending goes up. Not a little, but almost every time. A survey from Bankrate found that nearly half of people increase their spending the moment they get a raise. Instead of using that extra income to build wealth, most people use it to maintain the same financial stress, just with nicer things. More expensive clothes, a better phone, a new car, a bigger apartment. The lifestyle trap gives the illusion of progress while keeping you exactly where you started. Another major cause is impulse spending. Most purchases aren't logical, they're emotional. The Journal of Consumer Research has shown that up to 80% of buying decisions are driven by emotion, not need. This means that people aren't buying the product. They're buying the feeling they think it will give them. Happiness, confidence, status, belonging. This is why brands invest billions into marketing. They're not selling items, they're selling identity. This emotional spending cycle is fueled by dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. A study from Stanford University found something fascinating. Dopamine spikes before the purchase, not after, meaning your brain gets addicted to the anticipation of buying, not the item itself. This is why so many people chase that hit over and over again, even when it puts them into debt. Another reason 99% of people stay broke is comparison. We live in a world where you constantly see other people's highlight reels, their newest purchases, vacations, homes, clothes, lifestyles. You rarely see the debt, the stress, the panic behind the scenes. This comparison creates a fear of being behind, which leads to emotional spending to catch up. The American Psychological Association reports that people spend the most money when they feel insecure. So people don't buy things because they need them. They buy them because they're trying to feel enough. But maybe the biggest psychological trap keeping people broke is comfort. Your brain is wired to prefer what is familiar, even when the familiar is unhealthy. Saving money feels uncomfortable. Learning about investing feels confusing. Changing your spending habits feels difficult. So the mind avoids it. Neuroscience shows that the brain reacts to any kind of change, even positive financial change, as a threat. So people return to old habits, old routines, and old patterns, even if they desperately want different outcomes. Another thing most people don't realize is that saving money doesn't feel like gaining money. Thanks to loss aversion, a concept discovered by behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, humans feel loss twice as strongly as gain. So when you put $100 into savings, your brain doesn't register it as a positive. Instead, it feels like you just lost $100 of spending power. No wonder saving feels hard. But saving isn't the only thing working against most people. Another powerful force is short-term thinking. Wealthy people think in decades. The average person thinks in days. This difference alone separates the 1% from the 99%. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, long-term savers are 7 times more likely to reach financial independence than short-term spenders, regardless of income. But we live in a world built around instant gratification, same-day delivery, one-click spending, fast entertainment, fast everything. So long-term thinking feels unnatural, even though it's the foundation of every financial success story. This short-term mindset causes people to chase comfort today at the cost of stability tomorrow. It makes saving feel pointless and investing feel too slow. It makes people focus on the immediate price instead of the long-term value. And worst of all, it convinces people to make emotional decisions instead of strategic ones. The truth is that money responds to consistency, not intensity. Slow growth beats fast impulses every time. Another major reason people stay broke is because they rely on motivation instead of systems. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on mood, energy, sleep, stress, and circumstances. But systems are stable. Systems automate discipline. Systems make good habits happen by default. People who rely on motivation save money only when they feel like it. People who rely on systems save money every single time they get paid. No emotion required. And that difference compounds massively over time. Systems remove willpower from the equation. They eliminate decision fatigue. They prevent panic spending. They allow you to build wealth quietly in the background, even when life gets chaotic. Wealthy people don't have better discipline. They have better systems. But one of the deepest and most overlooked reasons people stay broke has nothing to do with money at all. It has to do with identity. Identity is the strongest force in human behavior. You will never rise above the identity you believe about yourself. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, your actions will always align with struggle. If you see yourself as someone who isn't good with finances, your brain will filter out information that contradicts that belief. Psychologists call this self-confirmation bias. Your mind works to prove your identity correct, even when that identity is hurting you. This is why people sabotage themselves. This is why they repeat the same mistakes. This is why they stay stuck in the same patterns, even when they desperately want to change. You cannot build wealth with a broke identity. You cannot build discipline with a chaotic identity. You cannot build confidence with a fearful identity. Identity comes first. Habits come next. Results come last. When people change their identity, everything else follows. They no longer try to save. They naturally save. They no longer force themselves to learn. They see themselves as someone who values financial knowledge. They no longer rely on motivation. They act in alignment with who they believe they are. When your identity changes, your future changes. But most people never even question their identity. They repeat the one they were given, by childhood, by environment, by society. And that unexamined identity keeps them financially trapped. Not because they can't do better, but because they don't believe they can do better. The moment you raise your identity, your habits rise with it. And your financial future shifts permanently. So how do you actually escape the financial patterns that keep most people stuck? It begins with awareness, but it doesn't end there. Once you understand the psychological traps, the lifestyle creep, the dopamine loop, the comparison cycle, the comfort zone, the fear of loss, the short-term thinking, and the absence of systems, you can finally start choosing differently. You can finally shift from reacting to money to directing it. The next step is clarity. You need a vision of the life you want financially. Not vague goals, but a clear picture of the lifestyle you want long-term. A vision gives your mind something to aim for, something stronger than the temporary desires that distract you. When your future becomes more exciting than your impulses, you naturally make better decisions. You stop buying for the moment and start building for the future. Then comes education. The school system teaches almost nothing about financial psychology, saving habits, investing basics, or long-term planning. You were taught how to memorize facts, not how to build wealth. But financial education is the great equalizer. Understanding how interest works, how compounding grows, how inflation affects you, how markets behave, how emotions influence money. Even a basic understanding gives you an advantage over most people. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to know enough to make consistent, rational choices. And consistency beats intelligence every time. But education means nothing without simplicity. Wealth isn't built through complex strategies. It's built through simple systems repeated consistently. Automated savings, automated investing, intentional spending, clear budgets, consistent habits. People often underestimate small actions because they want big results instantly. But wealth is slow. Wealth is quiet. Wealth is built in the background of ordinary days. And that's why most people miss it. They're looking for the dramatic, the exciting, the impressive. When in reality, the most profitable habits are usually boring. Another foundational element is responsibility. You must take accountability for your financial life, even if your past has been difficult, even if you didn't grow up with money, even if you made mistakes. Responsibility doesn't mean blame. It means ownership. It means understanding that your future belongs to you, not to your parents, not to the economy, not to luck. The moment you take full responsibility is the moment you gain full power. Because responsibility unlocks control, and control unlocks change. There's also the power of your environment. The people around you influence your financial habits more than you realize. If your circle normalizes constant spending, debt, and instant gratification, you will adapt to that standard. If your circle values long-term thinking, discipline, investing, and personal growth, you will rise to that standard. Your environment acts like gravity, pulling you down or lifting you up. Choose a circle that reflects the future you want, not the habits you're trying to escape. And finally, there's identity, the core of everything. You cannot become wealthy with the identity of someone who struggles. You cannot build consistency with the identity of someone who quits. You cannot save money with the identity of someone who spends emotionally. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes habits. Habits shape your future. To enter the 1%, you must become someone who thinks like the 1%, long before your bank account reflects it. That means seeing yourself as disciplined, capable, intelligent, and in control. That means acting like the person you want to become, before you feel ready. Escaping the 99% isn't luck. It's not about making a huge amount of money. It's about mastering the mindset, habits, systems, and identity that lead to long-term financial independence. Anyone can do it. Most people just never start. They stay stuck in the same patterns because they never examine them. But you now have the awareness that most people never reach. And that awareness is the beginning of transformation. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits come from your identity. If you want to escape the financial patterns that trap most people, you must upgrade your identity, build systems that protect you from your impulses, and think long-term when the world is trying to make you think short-term. Wealth starts long before it appears in your bank account. It starts in your beliefs. It starts in your decisions. It starts in your disciplines. It starts in your identity. The moment you begin seeing yourself as someone who is capable of building wealth, your actions begin aligning with that belief. Most people stay broke because they don't know these truths. But now you do. And that alone puts you ahead of the majority. The question is no longer, why do people stay broke? The real question is, who are you becoming from this point forward? Your future is shaped by the choices you make next.